My next guest is Senator Ben Ray Luján from New Mexico. He's the chair of the Subcommittee on Communications, Media, and Broadband. I should tell Senator Luján that I worked for 3 years for Jeff Bingaman in the 1990s, and I've been to every corner of New Mexico many, many times. And you know, New Mexico is kind of an interesting state where you've got two national security labs, you've got more PhDs per capita in the country, but you have incredible parts of New Mexico that remain disconnected, tribal regions disconnected in broadband. And so, I mean, Senator Luján, I'm just going to put it to you, man. How do we fix the unevenness of opportunity and connection in a state like New Mexico and make it a national obsession to do so?
Well, Steve, first off, just thank you for all the work that you've done, and especially the work you did with Senator Bingaman, who was an incredible leader and understood these challenges. And as you traveled across New Mexico, you know, we're a large state geographically. We have lots of mountains and a lot of rural areas as well. You're also familiar with how New Mexico and other Western states benefited from the electrification of rural America, how we were able to get interstate systems across the country built to move people. We need to make the same commitment with internet connectivity, broadband connection across the country. There's no reason that one family in America does not have access to fast, reliable, affordable internet. What I've always challenged the chairs at the FCC with, Steve, is how is it that someone can connect to the internet at LaGuardia when they're traveling out of New York and stay connected at 30,000 plus feet until they land at LAX, but you can't connect to the communities that you're flying over. The infrastructure package that we are working on now, the commitment from President Biden and the work that we're laying out in the House and Senate will commit investment. And I believe that we can reach our goal of 100% connectivity if we do this correctly across America. And we can also make sure that it's affordable and reliable.
Look, Senator, one of the other things you've been raising and waving a red flag on, and I think it's a very real way, it's become kind of a cliche for a moment, but I'd love to kind of go into deep dive, is the homework gap. So when you're kind of looking at what we've just come through with the pandemic, and a lot of countries still not through it, but tell us about the homework. Tell us why you're so worried about the homework gap.
Well, I wish I could take credit for coining that term, Steve. It was the acting chair of the Federal Communication Commission, Jessica Rosenworcel, who introduced the country and the world to that term. And she's committed to closing that homework gap. We knew about this before COVID, but the entire world knows about it now because of COVID. Students that were dependent on an internet connection to do their homework, they couldn't get into the classroom. And I always remind folks that whether students are in the classroom or not in the classroom, they still need access to the internet. Most of their homework is done this way now. And closing and eliminating the homework gap in America goes hand in hand with getting 100% of the country connected with fast, affordable, reliable internet. It's not enough for us just to provide connectivity in every community, but families need to be able to afford it. And as a result of that, we also need to look at some of the rules that even exist at the FCC, where if one house in a neighborhood, for example, has high-speed internet access, then the FCC's rules would determine that that community is connected when they're not, and they're left out. And that happens in big cities as small rural towns across America. So it's not just the investment that we must make across the country to connect unserved and underserved communities. We need to have permanency when it comes to affordability. For me, it's looking at modernizing the Universal Service Fund. And it's also ensuring that students are able to connect even on their school buses. There's a young woman, 16 years of age, that lives out in Counselor, New Mexico, in the Navajo Nation, Helene. It takes her an hour and 45 minutes to get to school. Can you imagine how much homework she could do if that bus had a Wi-Fi hotspot in addition to be able to connect at her home? And I think that's why we need to think about this. We can revolutionize what we're doing in America, give students and families a competitive advantage. We can also close the gap when it comes to access with telemedicine, which we now know because of COVID will provide more support for access for mental and behavioral health. So this is a priority of mine, especially as the chair of the subcommittee on the Commerce Committee that has jurisdiction over all of these areas. working on these issues in the House of Representatives on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and then being a member of the Public Regulation Commission in New Mexico before I was elected, which is the equivalent to public utility commissions across the country. This is a moment that we can meet this challenge, and I'm optimistic that we can.
Senator, just finally, I love your enthusiasm. I know you believe in science. I know that, you've got in the state, we've got air bases, we've got, big national security labs. And I've always thought, how could we arbitrage some of these places and make it more even? We have areas like the Four Corners region, with, Colorado and Arizona and New Mexico and Utah. We've got tribal regions that are very, very, in my view, underserved. You talk about it naturally, but a lot of our viewers don't know about some of these places that need significant more attention and investment and care. And I'm just wondering if there's any, silver bullet to this. Is there any opportunity with some of the major infrastructure, which is in the state, that can be brought out to help some of these other spots? I am obsessed with New Mexico's success, and I really believe, you are, of course. But I'm just wondering if there are any kind of things of this conversation that we may be able to leapfrog out of having an underserved tribal region to having a well-served tribal region. I'm just wondering if there's anything like that you think our audience should hear.
Steve, it may surprise some of your viewers to know that there still are American citizens, people living in the United States that don't have electricity at their home, running water in their home. If you don't have running water, you probably don't have wastewater as well, septic and wastewater systems. We in America need to make a decision and take action to end that. We know about the challenges that exist in communities where they can't drink the water that is flowing in their communities through municipal water systems because the lead pipes are making families sick. Think of Flint, Michigan, and all of the horrific challenges that families are facing. This infrastructure package and the American Families and Jobs Plan, the announcement that we had in the Budget Committee with some agreements yesterday to begin to put this package together, will provide an investment in America that we've not seen in decades. I think the closest you could compare this to were initiatives under FDR. And those are the priorities that President Biden has laid out. We share that vision with House Democratic leadership, with Senate Democratic leadership. And we're very fortunate that many of our Republican colleagues are willing to work with us on a bipartisan basis for this infrastructure initiative. So again, this is a moment for America to regain our competitiveness, to invest in one another, to invest in people, and to make sure that every family across America has the tools they need to succeed. These initiatives will also lift more families out of poverty. And for me in New Mexico, as long as we're helping families like Helene, we can get her electricity, get her running water, get her access to fast, affordable internet, make sure that she and her family will benefit from those child tax credits, access to college. She wants to become a healthcare provider. If we can solve these challenges through those eyes, then we can help families across every corner of our country. And I'm optimistic and enthusiastic that we can get this done.
Senator Ben Ray Luján of New Mexico, I love this conversation. Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back many times, but thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you.